Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to you. This is our Monday Manna opportunity together to open up God's Word and unpack it together. So excited to see what God has to say to us each week. As I pray and I ask the Lord for a fresh word for you, I feel the Lord challenging my heart to challenge your heart to be more like Jesus. And so that's exciting. Exciting to see how God is going to continue to use this time. I'm so grateful for the feedback from you guys as I'm hearing about you posting it on other pages and sending it to your friends and family. I pray that it continues to provide food and nourishment to your spirit as we together walk out the things of God and watch each of us grow to be more mature believers in the things of God. I want to share with you today from Proverbs. I'm going to be reading from Proverbs 14. So it's Proverbs 14:27. It says, "The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, turning a person from the snare of death." Let me read that again. Proverbs 14:27. It says, "The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, turning a person from the snare of death." And so you look at this verse, and this verse is so incredibly powerful. And you read the word fear, and you say, does God actually want me to fear him? Does God want me to be afraid of him? And it's not about us trembling from this evil, oppressive God. That's not the picture that's here. The picture that's here is that you and I are to be so in love with Jesus, so in love with God, that the thought of displeasing him would break our hearts. We would live in the fear of not pleasing him. We would live in the fear of God. I want to be like you, and I don't want to do anything that's going to offend you. You see, we get this a little backwards sometimes. Oftentimes, we're so worried about what people think, about what mankind thinks, about what this person thinks or what that person thinks. And for a Christian, the fear of man is the kiss of death. If we spend all our time worrying about what man thinks, we're in a lot of trouble. We're meant to worry about what God thinks. Charles Spurgeon has a great saying. He said, "What has cured me of the fear of man is the fear of God." So how does that work? That means if I fear God and I live my life under the umbrella of his word and of his truth and of his character and of who he's making me to be, then the fear of man plays no place. The fear of man, family, is a luxury. If you have time to worry about what people think, you're truly not spending time in what God thinks. But if you're spending time in what God thinks, God, what pleases you? My attitude, my heart, my speech, my thoughts. If I'm spending time learning how to obey God and fearing displeasing him, then I am becoming stronger every day. And literally, he's saving me from death. The snare of death is being removed from my life because I'm not falling into the traps that will destroy my life. I'm living in this understanding of the fear of the Lord. What does that mean? That means I'm bringing my whole being, my thoughts, my speech, my heart, my attitude, the way I treat people. I'm not worried about what people think. I'm worried about what God thinks. I'm not worried about how this person's going to judge me or how I line up with this person's values. I've brought my whole being under the accountability of God and of his values and of his heart, and I fear him. So before I speak, Lord, is this going to please you? Before I act out, Lord, is this going to please you? We literally live by what would Jesus do as the motto of our life. That's what this verse means. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life. Every time I operate out of that understanding of, God, I want my life to please you. I want to look like you. I want to sound like you. I want to act like you. Every time I do that, life is being birthed within me and death is being removed from me. But every time I'm worried about what people think or I operate in my own flesh, what pleases me, then death becomes stronger in me and it has more of a place in me. But every time I take my thoughts and my heart and my mind and I submit them to Father, what pleases you? And I allow myself to operate in that place, then life grows in me. See, the fear of the Lord is a fountain of life. And if I live with the understanding, God, that I'm not trembling that you're going to hurt me, I'm trembling because I love you so much and I don't ever want to displease you, then you're going to operate in a place that just produces life. Your words will be life-giving. Your attitude will be life-giving. Around you, what will happen, if you are truly becoming a fountain of life, around you now, everything begins to live. Your family will begin to live. Your job will begin to live. Everything around you. But if you live in the fear of yourself Or in the fear of man, what grows out of you is death. And so your words become death, and your thoughts become death, and your attitude of your heart becomes death. And then you become caught in the snare of death. But if you live in this verse, the fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, and it will spare you from the snare of the fowler, the snare of death. It'll remove you from it. You will see life coming out of you. So as you start this week, what I want you to do is I want you to begin to live in the fear of the Lord as you're walking, as you're living, as you're operating. God, how do I please you? Because I want to tell you something. You can say you love Jesus, but the true fruit of the love of Jesus is your obedience to him. That's the fruit of love. The fruit of love is obedience. And so I operate in this fear of this present understanding of who God is. And I watch my life change. And I watch life begin to spring forward from me to everything around me. So I challenge you today, brothers and sisters, this week. Would you live in the fear of the Lord and allow that fear to produce a fountain of life in your life? Have a great week. I pray God blesses you tremendously and that every day you will sense him more and more. I love you all very much. God bless.